Basically the title. I got pregnant at 17, my boyfriend dumped me. I told my parents, and they told me that I needed to get in baby, unaliving. I just couldn't bring myself to do it. So when I refused, I came home from school like a week after that discussion, and the locks had been changed, and there was a suitcase full of my things at the front door. I knocked on the door. Both of my parents were home, but they just stood at the window and said, "You're on your own now." To make a super long story as short as possible, I went to the library and started researching. I found a low cost of living state and began searching for apartments and a job. I stayed with my friend Lila, 18-year-old female, for about a month while I planned everything out. Dropped out of school, got a job lined up, and thanked my lucky stars that I had opened a credit card when I was 16-year-old to start building credit. My mom was my co-signer. I don't know if she just forgot about this or let me keep it after she dropped me. Lila's dad was nice enough to buy me a beater car. I drove to my new state and began working. I got my GED pretty quickly since I only had a little bit left to go at it. By this, I mean that I already knew much of the content in the GED exam, so I didn't have much to study. I lived in my car for nearly 7 months, trying to save up and waiting to turn 18. Took showers at a gym. Life was hard, but at least I didn't need to sleep with the car on, because it was warm where I moved. The job that I got was street maintenance, so I was working with hot asphalt and tar all day in the hot sun. It was awful. By the time my daughter was born, I qualified for a low-cost apartment through a state program that supplemented me, and I at least had somewhere to bring my baby home to. By some miracle, I saw a job posting working as a street maintenance tech for the city, so it would be a government job. I applied, and by some other miracle, I got it. Suddenly, I'd paid time off, medical coverage, retirement, everything. They even had a program for parents through the health insurance that would cover a huge portion of childcare. It took way more out of my deductions on my paycheck, but so much cheaper than paying out of pocket. I climbed the ladder at my city. It helps that so many boomers are retiring. I am now a technical specialist, but I'm gunning for crew lead for streets maintenance department. The city paid for me to get my Class A CDL. So even if I somehow didn't make it here, I could get basically any labor job out there. CDLs are a golden ticket. The city has paid for every certification that I have. It truly was a miracle from God that I saw the entry-level position opening all those years ago. I make good money, I am secure, I am so tired, but I am so fulfilled. It's been 7 years since I was kicked out of my parents' home, and I haven't spoken to them since then. I had changed my number and deactivated all forms of social media. My daughter is so smart, flourishing, and such a cool person to hang out with. Being her mom's the best thing in the world, and she is somehow wise beyond her years, and yet so innocent and playful. I was blessed with her, truly. I met an amazing man, Derek, 28-year-old male, that also works for the city, but a different department. We've been together for 4 years, and he recently proposed. Now to my problems. Recently, Lila came to visit me, and to meet my fiancé face-to-face. We are in a townhouse now, close to the beach, and she wanted a beach getaway vacation for her blog vlog. We had so much fun. She took lots of pictures and videos of us all. We showed her around the city, and I pointed out projects that I had completed. Yes, I'm that person. It was so much fun catching up with her after like 5 years of not seeing each other in person. I had no idea that she would post photos and videos of my daughter, fiancé, and I thought the photos and videos of us were for her, while the photos and videos of the stuff we did was for her blog. She texted me a week after she went home that my parents saw her blog after she shared it on her Facebook and saw the photos and videos of us all, and now they want to get back in contact. She said that my parents told her that they were really mad at me back then, but that they never expected that I would vanish, and they are pissed that I moved so far away from them. I guess they assumed I was somewhere nearby. I don't know how to respond to this. I am so upset with Lila for posting pictures and videos of me and my daughter to the internet without my permission, especially knowing that I don't have any social media. The violation is a lot for me, but I also owe her and her parents my and my daughter's life, so I don't know what to do about that. I also don't know what to do about my parents. They want to talk to me. I don't think that I really want to talk to them. On one hand, I want to rub it in their faces that I succeeded despite them. On the other, I think nothing will hurt more in the world than me never speaking to them again. Their only child. I'm torn between petty revenge and nuclear revenge. But then I think about my daughter. She doesn't have much family. She has the friends that I've made here that she calls aunties, uncles, and Derek's parents that she recently started calling grandma and grandpa on her own. Other than that, she has no one. This has always been so sad to me. I am torn between hating my parents and loving my daughter more than I hate them. Opening the door to my parents would open the door to the rest of the family, her real aunts and uncles and cousins and grandparents. I have always been worried that the reason she is like a little adult is because she is always around adults. She has friends at school, obviously, but her younger years, it really was just the two of us. I don't know if isolating her from her family is the right thing to do. I know that I should love her more than I hate my parents, but opening that door builds such a rage inside of me that I don't know what to do with. IDK Reddit. What should I do? Edit. Holy shoot, you guys. Thank you all so much for all of the support, kind words, and advice. I'm at work right now, but I will read everything when I get home. I really don't think it's possible for me to respond to everyone. I did not expect the explosion when I opened my phone. Thank you so much. Update. So holy smokes, this a lot to take in. Seriously, thank you all so much for your words of encouragement and advice. It's really, really nice to read. I don't have the time to respond and update tonight, so I will just write this update for now. To address a few questions I saw, what about the rest of my family? Well, I'm worried that getting back in contact with any of them, they will pressure me to speak to my parents when I'm not ready, or maybe even plan a mini surprise intervention and trap me somewhere with them unexpectedly. Do I have evidence for this? Honestly, no. However, it is something that I am paranoid about. Perhaps I've read too many Reddit stories. Did any of them look for me at all? No idea. I'm sure my parents told some wild version of events, or maybe they have been pretending they know where I am, who knows. Have my parents been looking for me? I rarely speak to Lila about my parents, but about 6 months after I left, my parents reached out to Lila asking about me. They assumed that I was still with her. She told them that I had gotten a job and moved out to be closer to my work, which is true. I asked that she not disclose my location or any information about me. Eventually, she told them that I had cut her off too, so that they wouldn't pester her for any more information, and I was totally okay with that. By then, I was 18, and it's legal to disappear. The link to her blog on her Facebook proved that she lied, so I guess when they contacted her, they were pretty pissed about being lied to, which I'm sure colored how they spoke to her the rest of the conversation. Why did I assume the photos Lila took wouldn't go on social media? This is honestly just me living under a rock, apparently. Lila's a mini influencer. Nothing crazy. But her life is certainly her content, and she makes money this way. I don't know why I assumed that it was going to just be photos and videos of activities we did, and not the direct photos and videos of our faces. I just did, and that's my fault. I guess because I personally have no social media, I'm not in the habit of taking photos and videos and posting them to the internet. I like to make yearly albums with them that I keep in the living room like a grandma LOL. I asked Lila to take the photos of my daughter down at least. She apologized and said that she had my parents blocked on her social media, so she isn't sure who is connected to her that was able to show my parents. It is what it is. She is still my best friend. I've forgiven her. But I did ban her from taking any photos or videos for content at my wedding this summer. Is this an anti-abortion post? LMAO, I am pro-choice baby unaliving. Just wasn't my personal choice. Totally cool with anyone that made a different decision, but I personally couldn't. I think that I was half in denial of the whole thing and baby unaliving would make it real. Like a whole baby wouldn't? IDK. Either way, I don't care what other people do with their bodies. And I personally wouldn't change my decision if I could go back in time. My daughter is cool as hell. Where could I possibly live that is low cost of living and warm? I'm not going to give specifics on where I live. All I will say is that I live in one of the lower southeastern states. Anyways, a lot of people agree that getting back in contact with my parents isn't worth it. They aren't going to teach my daughter any good life lessons. And worst of all, what if they take credit for my hard work? I do agree with all of that. I also agree that they do not deserve my sympathy or my presence. The comments really made me sit and think about why I was struggling with contacting my parents, when the clear answer seems to be no. This is embarrassing, but really what it came down to was the little fantasy that I've always held on to during traffic or in the shower, where I confront my parents for what they did and have a whole soap opera speech, showing them what I've achieved and how they mean nothing to me, and saying, I don't need you. You're on your own now. Then mic drop. Dramatic, I know. The longer I sat on it, I realized that there was never really any response in my little fantasy from my parents. It was always just me venting. So I decided that there is a very real way that I can do that. And it's with the letter that some of you guys suggested. I'll write a letter and keep it to the facts, explain the struggles more in depth than I did here, because it obviously was not sunshine and rainbows for a long, long time. I'll explain at the end of it that I'm not ready for any kind of contact, but if I ever am ready, I will reach out to them in my time. I will read only a single letter in response if they choose to send one. But I will burn every letter they send after that, so they better be wise about what they wish to say. I really am so angry. I'm nauseous. I'm so enraged. So many things that I've done in my life without them. I did it motivated by two things: spite for them and love for my daughter. It's been a few years since I've done things from spite, though, and I actually thought that perhaps I was over it. It was just buried, I guess, because hearing them through Lila lit a fire in me so hot that it was hard to focus at work. But in my moments of calm, I know that I don't want to burn the bridge completely down, but I don't want to install any boards back in right now either. I want to leave it as it is, a charred frame. I really appreciate everyone's time and mental energy to give me some words of advice and encouragement, some rando on the internet. If they send a letter back, I'll update on my page if there is anything worth sharing. Thank you so much, everyone. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I also don't know what to do about my parents. They want to talk to me. I don't think that I really want to talk to them. On one hand, I want to rub it in their faces that I succeeded despite them. On the other hand, I think nothing will hurt more in the world than me never speaking to them again, their only child. I'm torn between petty revenge and nuclear revenge. How about no revenge? Or the best revenge is living well. You are doing fine without them. If in the future, your daughter, when she is an adult, wants to seek them out, that's up to her. And certainly you can tell her, they threw me out when I was pregnant with you at 17 and wouldn't get in baby unaliving. I've had no contact since and don't want any now either. Comment 2. You had to live in your car while you were pregnant. You had to work a back-breaking job while you were pregnant. They didn't know if you were alive or dead. Did they ever look for you? How will your daughter feel if she loves her grandparents and finds out they wanted her aborted and left you broke, alone, and on the street at the most vulnerable time of your life? 10 years from now, if your daughter finds herself pregnant, how will they treat her? I agree with the poster who suggested therapy for you. Maybe contact them to see if they have regrets and if they are sorry. You've done a remarkable job of making a good life for you and your daughter. You should be proud of yourself. Proceed slowly. Good luck. Now for the update. Thank you for sticking around for this update. So the past week has been, well, interesting. After I posted last time, things got even more complicated. I was at work patching up a pothole when my phone buzzed. It was a text from Derek saying he had a surprise for me at home. I love surprises, but this one, not so much. When I got home, Derek was standing in the living room with a man I hadn't seen in years. My dad. My heart sank. Derek, bless his heart, thought he was helping by arranging this reunion. He didn't know the full story, just that I hadn't seen my parents in years. My dad started with an apology, saying how sorry he was, how they'd made a mistake, but I could barely listen. I was so angry, not just at him, but at Derek too. How could he not tell me? How could he think this was okay? I felt betrayed. My dad kept talking, saying they wanted to be part of my life, part of their granddaughter's life. But all I could think about was that day, standing outside my locked house, suitcase in hand. I didn't know what to do. I wanted to scream, to throw him out. But I also saw the old man he'd become, and something in me softened. I didn't want my daughter to see this, to see the anger and the hurt. So I asked Derek to take her to the park, to give me some time with my dad. We talked for hours. He told me about my mom, how she'd been sick, how they regretted their decision every day. I told him about the nights in my car, the fear, the loneliness. It was like a dam had broken, and all the pain poured out. But even as I spoke, I felt a weight lifting. I wasn't forgiving him, not yet, but I was letting go of some of the anger. The next day at work, I couldn't focus. My crew noticed, asked if I was okay. I brushed it off, said it was just a rough day. But inside, I was a mess. I kept thinking about my daughter, about family. I didn't want her to grow up without knowing her grandparents. But could I trust them? Could I let them back into my life after everything? Then, something happened that made up my mind. I was called to an emergency on the job. A sinkhole had opened up on a busy street. It was all hands on deck, and I was leading the team. It was stressful, dangerous work, but we did it. We fixed the street, made it safe for everyone, and as I stood there, covered in dirt and sweat, I realized that I was strong. I'd built a life from nothing, and I could handle this too. I made my decision. I would let my parents meet my daughter, but on my terms. They would have to prove themselves, show that they could be the grandparents she deserved. And if they couldn't, if they hurt us again, they'd be out of our lives for good. So I called my dad. I told him my decision, laid out the rules. He agreed, said they'd do anything. I could hear the relief in his voice, and it gave me hope that maybe, just maybe, we could be a family again. It's been a tough week, but I feel like I've come out stronger. I'm ready to face whatever comes next, with my daughter by my side. Thank you for reading. My date got cold feet because of her kid. But I stepped up, and now we are building a family together. So I showed her what real commitment looks like. I thought I had permission. I feel horrible and embarrassed. I've been seeing this girl for about 3 weeks now, and we've been on 4 dates. Yesterday, we spent the day together, and it was more like doing errands, which I didn't mind. Anyway, she wanted to have a gummy, and I've never taken a gummy before, a Zaza gummy. And I was thinking to myself, forget it, I'll try it, since I'm feeling so comfortable. Added context, we really like each other, but we're going slow. We haven't had intimacy yet, or really touched each other besides holding hands, kissing, and me touching her butt. We start watching a movie, and we're cuddling, and the gummies have kicked in. I've had one, she's had two. I put my hand on her outer thigh and ask, "Is this okay?" She responds, "Yes." I'm slowly moving around in that area because I'm just always moving a body part, like bouncing my knee or rubbing my thumb with hers whenever we're holding hands, etc. So I'm going in these slow, circular moving motions for about 5 minutes, and then move to her inner thigh near her private area. I ask again, "Is this okay?" She responds, "Yes." Another 5 minutes goes by, and I'm getting the vibe she doesn't like it. Based on her general body language, like her legs were kinda combined, and her left foot was starting to block her private area. When I got the vibe, I pulled away immediately and apologized. She couldn't speak since she told me the gummies usually make her zone out, and she didn't want to say anything incorrectly, which I respected. I then asked if she wanted me to leave, which she did, but she was nervous about me driving since I've never had a gummy before. So we watched the last 20 minutes of the movie, and I asked if she wanted to talk about it, and she gave me the same answer, so I left. So now it's the morning, and I feel utterly horrible and embarrassed. I feel like I've screwed it up. I texted her home. When I got home, and she loved the message, using the iMessage React thing. I don't know if that's worth putting in the post, but then I sent her this text. "I deeply apologize for what happened last night. I'm embarrassed, truly, and did not mean to make you uncomfortable. I promise you this will never happen again. If you need some time and space, I understand. I am sorry," her name. Edit. She responded to my text and said, "I'm going to take some time and space to think, because I do feel like my boundaries were ignored." I personally don't see how they were ignored, but I respect her decision and plan on giving her some space. Edit 2. Hey everyone, I was not expecting this to blow up and be the top post of the day. I am so thankful for all of you for commenting and sharing your opinions. It has definitely helped me. If anything major changes, I shall make a completely new post like I've seen here. Please feel free to keep commenting because I've read them all. Again, thank you so much. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You did the right thing. You asked for consent. And she said yes. Not only that, but by taking your time and watching her body language, you were able to decipher that she was uncomfortable. Most people don't care about other people's body language after they get the yes they're looking for. Don't sweat it if she has a problem with communicating after this situation, then she might have a hard time communicating in general. You might have dodged a bullet there. Comment 2. I don't think you did anything wrong. The Zaza is making you overreact. I always get paranoid when I take one after months of not having one. And you've never had one before. You did fine. You read her body language and reacted correctly. She wouldn't have done a love react if she was mad or anything. Your second message is still coming from your paranoia. Get some rest. Let it wear off and don't belabor it. Now, for the update. Thanks for sticking around for this update. So, after that awkward night, things got even more tangled. I gave her the space she asked for, didn't text or call, just waited. But life doesn't pause, right? I had to keep going with my own stuff. Work was crazy, my sister's wedding plans were all over the place, and my buddy Mike was having his own drama that he kept dragging me into. A few days passed, and I was at work when my phone buzzed. It was her. My heart skipped a beat, but the message was a gut punch. She wanted to meet up and talk. That talk vibe, you know? It felt heavy. We met at the park, the same one where we had our second date. She looked serious, and I braced myself. She told me she'd been thinking a lot and that she wasn't ready for a relationship. She had stuff from her past that was messing with her head. I didn't know what to say. I just listened. Then she dropped the bomb. She had a kid, a little boy, 4 years old. She never mentioned him because she was afraid it would scare me off. She said she was trying to figure out how to be a mom and date, and it was too much. She didn't want to drag me into her complicated life. I was stunned. I mean, I like kids, but this was a whole new level of serious. And it made me think about that night. Maybe she wasn't just uncomfortable with me. Maybe she was scared of how fast things were moving because of her son. I had to make a choice. Walk away, no hard feelings, or step into this ready-made family. I liked her a lot, but was I ready to be a part-time dad? The next day, Mike called me up, all frantic. He needed a ride because his car broke down, and he was late for a job interview. I was still reeling from the park talk, but I went to help him out. On the way, he kept talking about his ex and how he messed up by not being there for her and their kid. It was like the universe was sending me a sign. I dropped Mike off and drove around for hours, thinking. I thought about her, her son, and what I wanted. It was a lot to take in, but I knew I couldn't just bail without giving it a real shot. I cared about her too much. So I texted her, told her I wanted to be there for her and her son, if she'd let me. I didn't hear back right away, and man, that wait was torture. Finally, she replied. She was surprised but happy. She said we could take it slow, see how things go. I agreed. We decided to have a small picnic the next weekend, just the three of us, to start fresh. The picnic day came and I was nervous. But her son, he was awesome. We kicked a ball around and I made them both laugh. It felt good, natural even. She smiled at me in a way that made all the doubts vanish. We've had a few more hangouts since then, and it's not easy, but it feels right. I'm learning about being there for someone in ways I never expected. It's not just about us anymore. It's about this little guy too. So, that's where I'm at. It's been a busy week, but I'm hopeful. Thanks for reading. My wife lied about waiting for intimacy and was with my friend instead. So I left her stranded at the ski trip and took off with the car. I'm holed up in my room in a ski chalet while everyone else in our group is still in the village. I'm a little drunk and feeling extremely upset about this situation right now. My wife Suzanne and I met online 4 years ago. We'd both had some bad relationships and we both wanted something serious. Early on, she told me that she was tired of guys bailing after the relationship turned physical, and that she wanted to wait on that front, which I was not just okay with, but thought was smart. My most successful relationship before her was with someone where we waited a few months, and I appreciated getting to build a friendship to see if we clicked on an emotional level. Suzanne also told me that she understood if I still wanted to date around during that time, and didn't expect me to be exclusive until we both explicitly agreed on it. I told her that I wasn't one to try and fight a war on two fronts. I was serious about making it work with one person. Now, up until last night, I thought that she'd felt the same. She never once mentioned seeing other people while we were dating. And based on the way she talked about wanting to build an emotional connection, I assumed, dumbly I guess, that she was only seeing me. We're on this trip with 3 other couples and her friend Josh. I've always liked him. He and I have had some long conversations, smoking Zaza and talking about life and work. We're both in tech. I've always gotten the vibe that he's a kind, caring person who goes out of his way to help his friends. He's a big advocate for people doing therapy and talks openly about what he's working on. This is where it gets upsetting for me. Last night we got back from skiing and we were all exhausted. I went downstairs to start chopping veggies to help another of the couples cook the group dinner. Suzanne took a shower and I chopped and chatted for like 30 minutes. I came back upstairs to bring Suzanne some wine. I heard her and Josh chatting in our room. No big deal. I walk in and Suzanne is in a towel with her leg up on the bed, putting on lotion, talking about her job. It wasn't exactly a compromising position, but it struck me as possibly intimate. If she moved a bit one way or another, she'd be giving him a view. She said hi to me, kept putting on lotion, and then grabbed the wine, totally nonchalant. Josh said it was his turn to shower and left. Sitting here now, I wish to God that I'd just kept my damn mouth shut. But I said it was a little surprising that she was putting on lotion in a towel with Josh in the room. She said she didn't even realize it because she was just caught up in her story and went on autopilot. I've always known her to be a self-conscious person. She wears swimsuits that cover a lot of her skin because she doesn't like to feel stared at. So I was getting the feeling that something was off. I said something like, "You're usually so quick to cover up around people." And she said, "I guess I just know Josh so well that it didn't register." When she said that, there was just something abrasive, annoyed. It came out more sharply than I would have expected. I should have dropped it, but I was 2 glasses of wine in myself and said, "Whoa, did I touch a nerve?" And she said, "Let's just go eat," but now clearly aggravated and doing a fake smile thing. At this point, I could feel my stomach get a little queasy and like I was heading toward a world of pain. I shut the door and said I could tell something was wrong. She said I needed to trust her, that there was nothing going on between her and Josh. I said I never imagined or implied that there was, so it was really weird that she felt like she had to make that clear. Now I was feeling gross and suspicious, so I straight up said, "I can tell you're uncomfortable right now. Either you tell me what's up or I go ask Josh." What happened next was the most uncomfortable hour of my life. I need more scotch for this. She said that she and Josh had a intimacy history and that it really wasn't any of my business. I said that since he's still in our lives, then I deserve to know the context. She said there was no context other than he was someone she felt safe with when she wasn't in a relationship, and they would have intimacy now and then. I asked when was the last time they slept together, and she danced around it before saying, "Before you and I were exclusive." I said that was a vague answer because I was exclusive with her from the time of our first date. She said that she never had intimacy with him after the 2 of us had intimacy. I asked if she had intimacy with him during the 6 months between our first date and when we had intimacy, and she said she had. I instantly felt like throwing up and started yelling a bunch of things I don't really remember. She just had the most angry and disgusted look on her face the whole time. I finally calmed down a little and asked her to please give me the full story, timelines, etc. She wasn't fully open and I had to keep digging to get more information. and it was a very non-linear conversation. But here's what I pieced together. About 10 years ago, Suzanne's friend Rose, now female 40, also on this trip with us, had gotten out of a string of short, disappointing relationships. Rose started having intimacy with Josh regularly in a friends with benefits kind of way, while still using dating apps. Apparently, the arrangement with Josh made it easier for her to avoid intimacy in her dating life, which she found helpful for determining if guys were serious. Eventually, she did find the man she is still married to, Eric, 38M. Seeing the success that Rose had, two other friends got into the same arrangement with Josh, and voila, they found serious partners as well. A modern miracle. How about that? Suzanne said she talked to Josh about giving it a try, and he was super good about boundaries and making sure the focus was on her finding a long-term partner, and even gave her advice about guys she was seeing. I said, so you would go on dates with me. I'd drop you off, give you a kiss on the cheek. You'd go have intimacy with Josh and then talk about our relationship? She said that was a crude way of putting it, and that he was so supportive and made it easier for her and I to focus on what matters more. I stayed on the hide-a-bed and told people I was sick and I couldn't ski today. I've just been sipping Macallan 12 and writing this in between naps. Feelings I'm having right now: sadness, betrayal, jealousy, inferiority, drunk, more sad, and notes of anger and wanting to leave. But we are in Canada and I don't even know the quickest way to get back home. Do I try to work this out? Do I run? Do I even have a reason to be upset? The drunker I get, the less angry I get, and I can see her side of it more easily. Edit. I'm very hungover, but reading through all the comments. To clarify a few things: 1. Only one other woman who has had intimacy with Josh, Rose, is on the trip. The other two couples were my friends first and don't know Josh well. Sorry to those telling me I should drop a huge bombshell at dinner. 2. The reason it's hard to leave is because we all drove over the border together in a van and we are deep in the mountains. Not a lot of transit options. If I decide to leave, it will be a massive pain. 3. I don't have any reason to suspect an ongoing thing between Josh and my wife. I've never seen a hint of flirtation from either of them. Even when I walked in on them last night, they seemed completely casual, like I would be with one of my guy friends. But I also never suspected she could compartmentalize her feelings the way she apparently did. So I think I need to be open to all possibilities at this point. I'm going to go skiing this afternoon with just my buddy Ryan and see if he has any advice. And I will be abstaining from alcohol the rest of the trip, as many suggested. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. She didn't tell you because she knew you wouldn't like it. Yet, did you hang around and vacation together? Her excuse is far from acceptable for most. You are her husband, but it's none of your business? That's a marriage ender for some. The question is, what was your agreement on talking about past relationships and intimacy partners? Comment 2. A lie by omission is still a lie. She's had years to come clean about this friend, and she never did. Personally, I'd go see if the other husbands knew about their wives' little intimacy partner, who's still hanging around. Let's see how many dishonest women your wife likes to surround herself with. Now for the update. Thanks for sticking around for this update. So I went skiing with Ryan, and I spilled everything. He was shocked, to say the least. He's known Suzanne for as long as I have, and he couldn't believe it either. He suggested I talk to Rose. Maybe she could shed some light on this whole mess. I wasn't sure about dragging her into it, but I was desperate for some perspective. I caught Rose alone in the lounge that evening, and I asked her about her history with Josh. She was hesitant, but eventually opened up. She told me that Josh had been like a safety net for her, someone who was there without the pressure of a relationship, but she emphasized that once she met Eric, Josh was out of the picture romantically. She seemed genuine, and I wanted to believe her, but it was hard to trust anything at that point. The next day, things took a turn for the worse. We were all having dinner when Eric got a text. His face went white as a sheet. He stood up, mumbled an excuse, and left the table. Rose followed him out, and the rest of us were left wondering what was going on. I found out later that night from Ryan that Eric had received an anonymous message with photos of Rose and Josh from years ago. But the way they were sent made it seem recent. Chaos erupted. Rose was in tears, trying to convince Eric that the photos were old, that she hadn't seen Josh in that way since before they met. Eric was furious, not just at the situation, but at the betrayal of trust. He felt humiliated, and I couldn't blame him. It was like watching my own situation play out in front of me, but with the added sting of public exposure. I couldn't help but wonder if Suzanne had anything to do with those photos being sent. It was a low thought, but everything felt upside down. I confronted her, and she was furious that I would even suggest it. She claimed she was as blindsided as everyone else. But the trust was broken, and I couldn't shake the feeling that she was hiding something. The trip was ruined. Eric and Rose left early the next morning, their marriage hanging by a thread. The rest of us were walking on eggshells, the tension thick in the air. I couldn't even look at Josh without feeling a mix of anger and pity. He seemed just as confused and upset by the whole situation. I decided I needed to cut ties with the source of all this drama. I told Suzanne I needed space to think, to figure out if I could move past this. She pleaded with me, said it was all in the past, that she loved me, but love wasn't enough to erase the lies and the hurt. The last day of the trip, I packed my bags and got a ride to the nearest town with a couple from the group who were heading out early. I didn't say goodbye to Suzanne or Josh. I just left a note saying I needed time and that we'd talk when I got back home. I'm sitting in a small hotel room now, miles away from that chalet, feeling a mix of relief and heartache. I don't know what the future holds, but I know I can't be around that kind of deceit. It's going to be a long road to recovery, but at least I'm starting to see things more clearly. Thanks for reading. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.